dance with me. Leave your body wrapped up or even a street fantasy. In the square, yo, you best to beware. Street fighter, we ain't playing over here. One on one, kid, you know you get finished. Round one, round two, so come and get with it. Your heart ain't cold stone, forget about the power. Battle this out to the 24th hour. Paying the price that you couldn't deal with. Cold-blooded killers in my lockdown clique. Got no time to waste, we taking time bombs. Street fighter 3 like a scar. Yeah, make your first move, so what's it gonna be? You're trapped in a new world of Street Fighter 3. The third chapter, so what's it gonna be? You're trapped in a new world of Street Fighter 3. Make your first move, so what's it gonna be? You're trapped in a new world of Street Fighter 3. The third chapter, so what's it gonna be? You're trapped in a new world of Street Fighter 3. You'll rock what you got, block what you shot. Another chapter, what you get's what you got. Enough warriors here to fight, choose one. The best of the best will be the champion. Whose world is this after all? Capcom moving with lockdown forever, y'all. This contains scenes with violence and death. Viewers on the stretch and some ain't ready yet. For the fact that they ain't ready, step up for what you got. For the fighters who ain't ready, take your regular spot. So what? Calm down before it's too late to stop. Trying to front like you was kings of the block. Step too close, kid, you might get shot. Only one master is going straight to the top. One false move, your whole game get flopped. Only one master is going straight.
Hello everybody and welcome to today's stream. I'm starting up a bit early beforehand so I can introduce today's game. You guys unlocked this by hitting us at 190. At 200 we've got another game to unlock. You can check out my server to see exactly what that is. But I am your humble host, Gavin the Kitty. And today we are playing some arcade-style titles. Not particularly arcade games, but definitely arcade-style. And that's what hits the mark here. So, let's, once I finish giving out these links. Alright, that should be all of them. Let's get this started. So, I don't really so much have a super huge plan. Hello, Stacy! Not at 200, but it will be sometime later. It'll be right after Super Mario World. So, you can probably expect it sometime next week. Alrighty, so we've got Street Fighter music in the background because this game is dead silent, other than a couple noises. We'll give this a couple shots, probably go for a while, but how is audio right now? I'll show you. I'll show you what makes an arcade title. It mostly has to do with high scores. High scores are your big go-to when it comes to arcade titles. Arcades hold their roots in casinos, believe it or not, and gambling. But video games themselves do not have to be gambling, and we'll get into a lot of this. So mobile titles are very simple games, right? Much like the earliest arcade games, like Asteroids, Space Invaders, Pong. They were all super simple games, some based on reality, and some just based on having a good time. So, like, Flappy Bird here, its only goal is... Alright. Okay then, Aquil. But what I was going to say was the, oh shoot. I'm all over the place. Okay, every chat's going crazy. Let me see here. So, arcade games are simple and rooted in a lot of real-life sports, as well as classic concepts like traveling to far distant lands, defeating asteroids, breaking out of prison, all game ideas. Very basic concepts, and things you can even see now that are even fun to this day. While Breakout wouldn't be the ideal for breaking out of prison, something like Prison Escape in VR is totally right up the alley, especially if you've got a whole host of people. But it's basically the same concept, right? Breaking out of somewhere where you don't want to be. Much like Asteroids and Starlink Battle for Atlas is mostly the same concept of flying a spaceship around and exploring new areas. Maybe Apex, or no, not Apex, what is it? No Man's Sky would be a closer example to that. I'm just going to give this a couple shots while I'm talking, so feel free to just listen in for this part if you want. But we will be checking out another arcade game called Annalynn. This, Flappy Bird, however, was released way later, in like 2013 or whenever it was a long, well long after those classic arcade titles. But what you don't understand is that the mobile phone is geared towards very simple controls, right? It's just a screen. You just touch where you want to go, right? But that means it's basically one giant button. And even if you put buttons on the screen, it doesn't. They all feel the same. So it's not like a controller where I could feel where one one button ends and the other button begins. So that's why when it comes to these games, they're very simple, right? Back then, it was a hardware limitation where that's the best they could make with the knowledge they had and the chip codes that they had and whatnot, and processors and whatnot, because they were all basically off the shelves from Radio Shack. You know, very basic, very simple, World War II style, like, electronics, and that's what they were building with. Nowadays, we have much more complex systems, and yet the mobile phone continues to have a very simple control scheme. And that simple control scheme lends super well to arcade-style games. I've seen things like Galaga meet the phone, and you don't even need two buttons. It'll auto-fire. Hello, Ollie. Welcome, welcome. I'm trying to keep up with chat, but I'm also discussing arcade games and where they went, and how arcade games... meaning the mobile phone, are kind of a match made in heaven. Alright then. You good? Thank you. I'm definitely going to be able to read the chat a lot more when it comes to our next title, Annalynn, which is an arcade-style game on Steam, and I'll get to how that ties into my theory about where arcade games are going and heading. Because it seems a lot more like arcade games are best suited for mobile devices recently. Not to say that I don't appreciate all of the classic classic arcade games we have in the past. No doubt. In fact, I am super stoked for things like Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 12 and all sorts of really cool shit like that. But when it came to fighting games, by that point, arcade games had kind of moved more into a back seat, right? Like, you can get a better experience in the arcade. What am I doing? I'm discussing arcade titles and how they fit into the mobile market. You guys unlocked this by hitting 190 subscribers, so I wanted to treat you guys with a title a lot more people would recognize, and one that I didn't have the chance to play when it first came out. Okay, so something like Mario Clash, it's a bit more complex and based on Mario Brothers arcade game. And while that is an arcade game, yes, by that point, arcade games are starting to try to meet up with the gameplay experiences you could meet at console. So something you could really see was, like, yes, you could get it in an Atari 2600, but you'd be better off taking your quarters down to the arcade and playing Bubble Bobble, or playing something closer to Space Invaders, or Asteroids, or even Centipede or Millipede. All classic titles, all great games. So you can really kind of feel that these old school titles have some sort of root in simplicity. So these later games on mobile devices, they have more roots in simplicity than you could find anywhere else, right? Because it's just a simple button press, right? And that's what makes Flappy Bird so interesting to me. Not so much the design, not so much any style choices taken from Mario, or ideas that this is just a cheap flying through pipes, but the idea that something so simple can still be so captivating under the right pretenses, right? Like, let's see here. This game came out, and it was basically nothing. It was just get a high score. Which is basically where the roots of arcade games lent themselves. How much can I brag to my friends that I got a bigger score than them? It's kind of one big, giant dick measuring contest, but with a number, right? Oh, I got 1,350 for my score on Space Invaders, and I got to round 5. Bet you can't beat that, Tommy. And that's where that whole thing lies. And that's where this lies. Beating your friends in competition. Now, of course, some people took this way too far and took the modern idea of Flappy Bird and went, oh, well, we could add to this concept. We can give the bird different colors. We can unlock other skins. We could change up the pipe movements. We could make them move automatically. And by this point, we're getting to a closer idea of a modern space shooter without the shooting. You know, it's just avoid the pipes. Stay within the lines. It's honestly really interesting to see. But I'm sure you could think of multiple titles, arcade games especially, that are very simple but still fun to this day. And that's the point of this stream. That is the whole idea behind today. Simple games that are still captivating and somehow came out decades after they would have probably been relevant. And still, somehow, we found fun in them. How many times can I break to my friends? I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but cool. Yeah, Kirby has a manga. I'm not gonna go into that because I've never read them. But yes, more or less, my whole point of the day is high scores, and I'm sure you guys could beat my high score. I'm sure you guys could beat the high scores. It's not like I'm trying very hard at all. But I am definitely going to be saying, hey, simple games can still be interesting. Yes, Panda. This is yeah, the thrill. The thrill, yes. But, But once we hit about 20 minutes of this, I'm going to move on to our second game and get into why arcade games still haven't quite left the arcades in many ways. If you've been to a modern arcade like a Dave & Buster's or something of the like, where it's mostly meant for kids to go in and play stuff for a while, and they are often used for like birthdays and whatnot, because of course kids are going to want to play video games. Why not let them? Wouldn't it be great if they, you know, if we give them a shot at this? A lot of recent arcades, I've noticed, have mobile games like Crossy Road, which has its root in Frogger, and stuff like Angry Bird and Fruit Ninja as high score quarter gobblers, because you want to see if you can get a better score than your friends. And that's what I mean. Mobile titles have reached the arcades, basically closing off a whole loop, showcasing that mobile games are probably best suited to be arcade games. And that is the whole idea. And since we're a bit in, I'd like to remind everybody to please leave a like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Because I'm not just the Flappy Bird guy, and I'm not just the Sonic dude. I play Mega Man, Mario, and everything in between. I love retro gaming, and here on this channel you hear me gush about a whole lot of stuff. So stick around, subscribe, share it with your friends. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs. At 200, you guys unlock another crazy game for me to try. And you guys can even suggest games in the server. Links are down in the description below, and if you like any of the art you see on screen, you can always commission me, because my commissions are always open. Donations also help. And that's my little ramble for the day. Thank you for listening to my ad. See, but that's the point, right? Doesn't matter if it's Flappy Bird or something else, it's still something that's worth playing. Even if it's not super relevant. Like, Flappy Bird is not relevant anymore. It hasn't been relevant in probably almost a decade, I want to say. exactly, Revolta. But almost a decade, give or take, which is really saying something. So that's why I'm saying here right now, arcade games can still be fun if not relevant when they're not relevant. That's why I got the arcade music going on in the background, to give you guys a real vibe of what it would be like to, you know, maybe play this behind a cabinet of Street Fighter 3. I don't know. But, alright. Enough of this. Let's get into the real meat and potatoes of today. It became relevant in your head today. Well, so be it. It certainly is interesting, right? So, once I die this time, we'll be moving over to Annalynn. And I'll discuss why arcade games probably will never leave console, despite, you know, all the influence. So this game is Annalynn. Let me just get rid of the music, because this game has its own soundtrack, and it's a lovely soundtrack. I should be getting a co-host today. I don't know if or when they'll show up. So, seems like I have to actually. Let's check the audio here, because I did not check the audio beforehand. Oh, I gotta turn up the game. So, Annalynn is a retro-styled game based on the Namco classics of Pac-Man, Mappy, and Galaga. It's really interesting. And this game was released on Steam, and I'm really hoping it comes to console. It's really swell. Well, it would be. So, let's begin. Annalynn begins with cutscenes and all sorts of stuff. If you notice, though, the aspect ratio for these old arcade games is basically exactly what you'd see on your mobile phone. And while Annalynn is far more, you know, interesting and more mechanically sound and closer to Donkey Kong Jr. than anything else, it's still a good old time. Alrighty, let's get started. So our goal here is just to collect coins, avoid snakes, and get to the exit. Straight out of the Namco collection, and that's the point. That is the entire point of a game like this. It's meant to be arcade-like and snappy, and a bit difficult to play. In fact, it was entirely inspired by those Namco arcade games. And as you can see, when I collect a big gem, all of the snakes turn blue, and I can suddenly kick them. And that's what I mean. I found this game on Twitter. And I thought this game was absolutely astounding. It was cute. Hi, February, welcome. Kind of similar to Pac-Man. Exactly similar to Pac-Man. But as you'll see, we're going to have ropes and other mechanics that will differentiate this from Pac-Man quite a bit. This game has achievements, and I'd love to see it come to modern consoles, because, oh my god. This game came out literally, I think, last year, and it's only like $5 or $6. It's really good. We're going to struggle here a little bit, but I'm just going to be playing this until I get through with it. But what I mean to say about arcade games is that while now we've seen how they can... Yeah, it's real cheap. Real cheap. While arcade games have been more suited for phones, these more complex arcade experiences, such as Annalynn here, really do lend themselves much better to home consoles, which is interesting. Kind of like Star Fox 2. Absolutely like Star Fox 2. Star Fox 2 is as arcadey gets, and I love it for it. It's classic, it's fun, and I don't need to think too hard when I'm playing it, because I know it'll be alright. It'll be alright to turn my head off for a moment and just, you know, play. Boom! Stage 2 is done. Iron on the side of the side in the phone aspect ratio makes you think that it's an unreleased Namco game making its first appearance in a Namco collection. Except it's not. It is a PC title created by an indie developer. And I would say go wholeheartedly support this developer. Go buy the game. It is fantastic. It recently came out. This is not like an old classic. This is just the style they went for. This animator is absolutely lovely. I've seen their posts on Twitter and stuff. It's cute as shit. And just, like, look at all the little snake dudes. They're all, like, hopping around and stuff. It's great. As you can see, the gems do kind of lose their appeal for some of these snakes a lot faster as the game goes on, increasing the difficulty ever so slightly. It's just what you imagined. Exactly. And that's what I mean. Arcade games find their root. Mobile games can find their roots in arcade games, and arcade games can be as complex as a console title, which is rather interesting. There's lots of little challenges in this game too. It's really good. It does have a charm. It has a massive amount of charm. It also has awesome multiplayer. I've played this local multiplayer before, so it's real good. Each stage is going to change its look slightly, and this is where I feel we're going to start seeing our Donkey Kong Jr. influences a lot more heavily. With the rope climbing. In fact, it's the same mechanic. You slide down faster with one, you climb up faster with two. Can I eat the snakes? No, but I do kick the snakes, so it's all good. And also, you can kind of notice they are climbing on the background, and while Annalynn cannot. Lots of really good tells here. And you could totally see this released on mobile nowadays, but with something like this, it definitely feels better suited to a console. So, simple experiences... There are different levels of simple, right? There's a simple in the sense of Pac-Man with just motion, and then there's a simple of simple to play, difficult to master. And this game definitely gets that difficult to master. It gives me some Spelunky vibes in some points, and Spelunky is another game with some minor arcade roots, with the game Square Enix Spelunker being its main influence, and a bit of oh shoot, what is it called? Hudson Soft's Load Runner. As you can see, they are jumping down trying to hit me. Also, it's Donkey Kong Jr., not Donkey Kong Country 2. No, I'm saying Donkey Kong Jr. Did I say Country? I'm sorry. I've been having lots of, like, mental flub-ups lately, where I will just say the wrong thing. Oh, boy. These snakers. Also, I'd love to see a plush of one of these guys, so, yes. And if we can get a physical release of this, that would be kick-ass. I will be there day one to pick that up. Because I do not mind. What's that? Oh, shoot. I saw the snake walk, and I went, yes, I can walk across that. Just gotta mash up. Oh, shoot. You haven't played Spelunky, you don't think? Well, it was an Xbox Live Arcade title. And for a while, it looked to be that these classic arcade-style titles would more fit smaller budget titles on Xbox Live or on a service like the PSN or the Nintendo Switch eShop. And while that still holds true, in fact, the Switch eShop has a ton of great indies and arcade games, I feel we're better suited off with arcade titles, especially very simple arcade titles. While they should absolutely come to console to have all of the flourishes of a modern-day game. I still think a lot of these classic arcade titles deserve at least an attempt on mobile. Get people interested in them. And while not an arcade title, I do gush about Mega Man X Dive. That game is very arcade-friendly, if you haven't noticed. It's from point A to point B, get to the end, and shoot up as much stuff as possible, much like the classic Contras. AI Dungeon. Yes, I have. Alright then. If you say so, Stacy. The music in this game is great, by the way. More video games with awesome soundtracks. Ah, yes, there's quite a lot of you here. I'm surprised. I figured simple arcade games were beneath a lot of you guys. I see I'm wrong. I'm glad I'm wrong. Very glad I'm wrong. Because I love classic arcade titles a lot more than modern ones. In fact, fun fact, my first video game was Frogger. The YouTube algorithm generally doesn't seem to like to promote classic titles, which is very fair. They don't get as much ad revenue. Which is probably why they don't do it. Ah, barely. Dances to music. Cool. This game is hard. Yes, it is. Will I ever play AI Dungeon? Possibly. I would love to do an AI dungeon choose your own adventure style game, style thing, where I get all of you guys in chat. We give you like a couple days head notice, and we go, hey guys, you guys are going to be making the calls for this stream. You guys are going to choose what I'm doing. And we'll play through a little bit of AI Dungeon. And we'll see what happens. I would love to see where that goes. Because that's another thing that video games have a high root in. Is stuff like AI Dungeon. Except a lot older. In fact, there was something called Choose Your Own Adventure books. They still have them, by the way. You can still pick some up. And they're usually pretty darn cool. They were basically a precursor to... you wouldn't want you making calls. What would be a group decision? And if you guys couldn't decide, I'd make an executive one. But, oh, shoot. It's too early. But that's, like, the point, is to... kinda give you guys the choose-your-own-adventure experience from home, which was kinda half the reason, D&D came up. A lot. A lot of D&D and RPG's roots lie in choose-your-own-adventure books, because... you could basically make up and choose what you wanted to do, right? In those books. Be like, okay, you got to a page, it described your scene, and then it would say, okay, if you do this, flip to page 13. If you do this, flip to the next page. And that would be how it goes. And then you'd kind of go through the whole book, flipping through pages. Oh boy. Big Gem. I actually used to play D&D quite a bit, and I'd love to get into it more and play some on stream. Especially because I think that could be rather interesting to watch, especially for you guys who might think that it's kind of a nerdy title. But in fact, D&D has some roots in beat-em-ups with the Capcom arcade titles. Well, not roots. Has some branching out points where Capcom made a couple beat-em-ups based on D&D. Big 'em. Exactly. Big 'em. I hope you guys have been enjoying this so far. We are now at about half an hour in. And I think I've about covered everything that I wanted to say about how mobile titles... the mobile industry itself lends itself to simpler titles, and how I feel that's for the best. I feel that's for the best because if we don't keep around simple control schemes and simple styles, eventually they'll just leave altogether, right? Like, we've seen Atari come and go with its 2600 and VCS and all of its crazy bullshit, but if you look... But I've gushed before about how the old folks have so much nostalgia for these old games, it can kind of get you swept up in the hype. So when it comes to classic titles like this, I'd love for a whole new generation to have some amount of adoration for these older titles. Just a real love of simple gameplay that's easy to grasp and hard to play. Yeah, easy to grasp and understand, hard to master. That's what I'm trying to say. I cannot English today, so... no more English for me, oh well. Oh boy. Huge shout out, though, to a couple people recently who have been dealing with my bullshit. I'd like to give a special shout out to a guy named Chaos, or God of Chaos, and lemon berries for putting up with my bullshit lately, where I've been incredibly depressed recently, and I wanted to apologize, because I'm not always depressed, it's just life's been rough lately. So, yeah. Also, happy Pride Month, everybody. I like to say it, because I'm going to say it all month long, and you guys cannot stop me. There we go. How is chat doing, by the way? I didn't get to ask that yet. Ooh. I'm forgetting all sorts of stuff today. I just went right in with my spiels. I'll read that in just a second. Trying to decide to get both Java and Bedrock as a bundle. Up to you, Febs. Up to you. You doing, Matt? I feel it. Tomorrow's stream will probably be a late afternoon like this one. It'll most likely be Hollow Knight, so long as Artie is free. It's always good to get back into what you love. Man, it's been gloomy lately, and that's kind of part of the reason I've been so upset. Probably part of it, at least. Not all of it. Certainly not all of it. Oh, that's cool. He doesn't have anything. Ooh, what's he looking for? He's gonna take Annalynn's hat? Ooh, that's interesting. Actually, that is a question I'd love to ask you guys. Would you watch if I played Minecraft with some friends on here? I have a little bit of history there. Not a lot, and I certainly don't have the nostalgia that some of you guys have for that title. Java or better? Whichever one I feel like playing. It would probably be the console port. Because I am a console gamer. For the most part. I play PC. This is on PC, so... I play everything, but I'm using a controller for this, not keyboard and mouse. And that's something else that arcade games are rather infamous for. Their strange layouts and controls. That's why I like weird controllers so much. Sure, you'd watch? Okay. That's good to know. If I can justify it with a few people watching, then I might just. Because I know that gets a lot of views, and I'm sure you guys would have some fun with it, making fun of my redundancy and stupidity. Plus, we could tackle two birds in one stone and do the Pac-Man 40th celebration and the Sonic 30th. And that's something a lot of people don't realize, is that these games are very old. They are rooted almost 50 years ago now. Damn near 60. My mom remembers when the 2600 came out. And how much of a commodity that was. And that is interesting for me personally to think about. My parents remember these old video games. right? So when I talk about my video games, what they think of and what I think of are two very different things. When I think video games, I think of awesome 3D titles like Spyro and Crash, and what my mom thinks of is Pong and the Atari 2600. And that's fascinating. I'd love to get her thoughts in on things, because I'm sure she's got a very interesting outlook on video games as a whole, especially because she grew up with, she had to deal with me growing up and raising me, and I was all about video games, right? So it can be kind of, it can be interesting, see a little bit of a generation divide there. I know she doesn't like video games, but seeing an outsider's perspective can oftentimes lead to something interesting, right? Because her viewpoints on games really changed as I grew up. She went from, like, thinking of it as a fun pastime that only boys can get into, to more of an all-around hobby. And the more research I did into video games in school, the more I'd tell my mom about these things that I'd found out. That was always interesting to watch her reaction. Because she seemed like she already knew most of it. Which was strange, right? When you were a kid, I'm still a bit of a gaming addict. I'm a bit of a dork. Ooh, they're planning something. Oh my. We've got some real Pac-Man arrangement style stuff going on here. Bonk! Trust me, there's a lot more to this game than what this is going to show you. But here's our first boss fight. That's fair. As people grow up, their tastes in things change. Ooh, they dropped a red and a blue. Oh. You always wanted a one-screen Mario game like Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong. That's fascinating, because Donkey Kong did not have just one screen. Donkey Kong had multiple screens. But I see what you're saying. Like, you want something a bit more static. Now, I know there's the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, where the first one was a lot more like that one-screen puzzle element of Donkey Kong, with the goal being just to get to the end, right? But that's kind of where these indie games come in, right? Newer, more mainline. Well, something akin to Annalynn here is always an option. I know there are some people making Anton Ball, or something, I think it's called that. And that is basically a redo of Wario Land. So with the Mario Brothers gameplay, well then, I've got a game for you called Mario Clash on the Virtual Boy. Not even kidding. It is the Mario Bros. Mechanics flipped on its head ever so slightly. It's more of a one-screen style puzzler, but it's still got far more interesting gameplay. Oh, saw that one coming. More than 2 colors. No, it does not. Sorry, I didn't take that into account. Of course, there's a lot of games nowadays that get away with just 2 or 3 colors. Well, that doesn't quite exist unless you're looking for fan games. Oh boy. Gotta go on Twitch or something. Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, maybe. I have a couple reasons why I didn't choose Twitch. But I'll save those for some other time. Or you could watch the disappointing Sonic Blast stream, where I streamed to both Twitch and YouTube, and everybody on Twitch hopped over to YouTube and whatnot. Because it's just an easier watching experience for everybody. Plus, people watch it after I finish streaming, and that's always a lovely thing. On Twitch, it's harder to see. This is not all the game has to offer, but it is certainly something. But this will probably be it for the arcade-style stream. I'll show off a little bit more of this game in particular. Flappy Bird, I think we get the gist of it. I might do another arcade-style stream some other time. But when you're looking at some of these games and you see something simple, maybe take a look at it, if it's cheap or whatnot, and go, huh, maybe it'll be real fun, maybe it'll be complex, maybe it'll be difficult to master, but easy to understand. And that is where the heart of gameplay goes for me. Mega Man, simple to understand, difficult to master. Mario, you can understand those controls, but how well are you going to fare when we play Lost Levels? With Sonic, how difficult can we make it by the end if you can understand the momentum at the beginning? Because the momentum and speed are easy to understand, but the level design and the way you can build speed is always going to be difficult to master. So when we play something like Annalynn, where it is simple to understand but difficult to master, and something like Flappy Bird, where it's real easy to understand and difficult to play, that is where the heart of games lie for me. If you give me something that's easy to understand and easy to play, but it's got difficult stages and difficult level design that's still fair, I will love it to death. And that is where this game lies with me. A game that is easy to play, difficult to master, and I will love it to death because of that. But, of course, that's not everything we have here. We just unlocked a little bit more, and in fact, this game is still being updated to this day. I even beat my other score. I'll let you guess which one's me. Hint, it's the one with my initials. Another hint, if you see G.D on a high scoreboard in an arcade, that was me. G.D, that is my go-to. GMH is my other go-to. I remember I hit the scoreboard in Pac-Man in a Dave & Buster's that recently closed because, of course, it was in a mall. So in here we've got cheats. Ooh. Ooh. Hard mode, strange mode. Rubies and foods behave strangely. Sure, why not? Voice clips. Speed. Ah, we have to. Save and return. These are the achievements, by the way. Oh, this is cool. Oh, wow! This is kind of like the Pac-Man arrangement version of this game. That's really cool. This actually changes things up quite a bit. A lot more than you'd think, honestly.
Just what I needed.
Oh, what? Oh, right, they act strangely. So when it says they act strangely, that acts a little bit closer to Pac-Man Plus, where it might not hit everything. We're just gonna go to even it out to a solid hour. Oh boy. Oh boy. Once we game over here, we're going to quite a number of voice clips. Once I finish this up here, I'm probably gonna call it. Once we get to a solid hour and I game over. I am interested in playing more of this. I probably won't play it on stream. And I know for a solid fact There we go. I'm gonna call it up, and then I'm gonna do my little final ending spiel, and then I'll see you tomorrow for Hollow Knight, because I don't have a whole lot left to say, and showcasing arcade games all day would be really cool, but the whole point of the stream was just to celebrate that we hit 190. Let's hope that we can hit 200 here soon, I think we could do it. In fact, I think we could hit 200 by the end of tomorrow, if not the end of today. Alright. Also, there's other palettes. Quite a bit of them. 8 more and that's it. 8 more and that's the start of the next 100, won't it be? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Captain Keys. So, for those wondering about me, I will be on VR chat later today, probably just to hang out and vibe. Might be at the pub and might be somewhere. But if you find Gavin Kitty, please feel free to stop and say hi. Also, if you're new to this channel, enjoyed anything that you liked, or understood half of what I was saying while I was talking about games, remember to hit that button. On your screen right now, in a little bit, there should be a button on my left to say subscribe, and a button on my right with 2 videos, one including probably something, and a playlist of my choosing. So make sure to check those out. Also, we have a PayPal down below where you can donate. We also have a Discord server, so please come hang out. We have a lot of friendly people in there. And we also have a Twitter down below. If you ever are interested in what the hell I'm doing, please feel free to follow me. Shoot me a DM. I'm always happy to talk. Or, well, mostly happy to talk. But, nonetheless, remember to subscribe, share links with your friends. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs, and I think we can do it this year. So, join me tomorrow for Hollow Knight. And as for today, good night, everybody. Your humble kitty cat host has said so.